On the night of March 29, 2008, Sao Paulo was breathing with its usual chaotic energy. But inside the gates of the Edificio London, a high-end residential complex in the Villa Guilherme district, there was a different kind of silence, the kind of silence that precedes a scream. At 11:58 p.m., a panicked voice hit the emergency lines. It wasn't a report of a fire or a medical emergency. It was a father, Alexandre Nardoni, claiming a black-clad intruder had breached his sixth-floor sanctuary. He claimed a thief had cut through the safety netting, the very mesh designed to keep children safe, and hurled his 5-year-old daughter, Isabella, into the darkness. When first responders arrived, they found a scene that would haunt them for decades. Isabella was lying on the manicured lawn of the internal garden. She wasn't gone yet. Her tiny chest was still struggling for air, her heart stubbornly beating against the inevitable. Paramedics worked for 34 minutes to bring her back, but at the hospital, the light finally went out. Within hours, the narrative began to shift. The burglar theory felt wrong. There were no stolen electronics, no ruffled jewelry boxes, only a father, a stepmother, and a window with a jagged, intentional hole. This is the story of how a domestic argument turned into a national trauma. Let's look at the physics of that night. Alexandre claimed he carried Isabella up, left her sleeping, and went back down to help his wife, Ana Carolina Jatobá, with their other 2 children. He said he was gone for less than 5 minutes. In that window, he claims an intruder entered, committed a murder, and vanished without a trace. But the forensic team, led by some of Brazil's most meticulous investigators, started seeing the red flags, literally. They found blood in the hallway, blood on the floor of the living room, and most chillingly, a smear of blood on the seat of the family car. Then came the autopsy report, the document that changed everything. Isabella hadn't just died from the fall. She had a massive hematoma on her forehead, consistent with being punched. There were signs of mechanical asphyxiation. Someone had had their hands around her throat, or a hand over her mouth. The conclusion was devastating. Isabella was likely unconscious, or perhaps the couple thought she was dead before she ever reached that window. They didn't find a burglary. They found a cover-up. The safety net hadn't been torn by a frantic intruder. It had been cut with kitchen scissors found right there in the apartment. To understand the why, we have to look at the household's temperature. Isabella was caught in the middle of a complex blended family dynamic. Her biological mother, Ana Carolina Oliveira, was a constant presence, not physically, but in the mind of the stepmother, Jatobá. During the trial, witnesses and friends painted a picture of Jatobá as pathologically jealous. Every interaction Alexandre had with his ex-wife regarding Isabella was a trigger. The prosecution argued that on the drive home that night, an argument erupted. It wasn't about money or chores. It was about the child as a symbol of the past. Imagine the scene, a car ride filled with screaming. A child in the back seat, confused and terrified. The prosecution alleged that Jatobá attacked Isabella in the car, and the violence continued into the apartment. The child went limp. The panic set in, not the panic of a grieving parent, but the panic of a lawyer, Alexandre, thinking about his future. This was no fleeting lapse in judgment or a feverish crime of passion that found its resolution in a moment of honesty. No, this was something far more sinister. A chillingly orchestrated performance. a cold and clinical fabrication of a stranger danger nightmare, designed with the singular, ruthless purpose of shielding themselves from the wreckage of their own choices. By 2010, the trial had become the O.J. Simpson case of South America. People stayed home from work to watch the live updates. When Alexandre and Jatoba walked into that courtroom, they weren't just facing a jury, they were facing 200 million people who had already made up their minds. The defense tried to lean on the unknown third-party theory. They suggested a mysterious neighbor or a phantom burglar, but they couldn't explain the lack of footprints. They couldn't explain why the intruder chose to throw a child out a window instead of taking the laptop sitting on the table. As the gavel descended with the weight of a final judgment, the numbers echoed like a death toll for the defendants. 31 years for the father who failed to protect, and 26 for the stepmother who conspired in the dark. But the real story was happening outside the courthouse. The moment the news hit the airwaves, the city transformed into a sea of raw, unbridled emotion. Rockets of light hissed into the air, exploding in bursts of gold and red, while grown men and women collapsed into each other's arms, weeping openly. Isabella's tragedy had become a national wound, and this verdict was the first stitch in a long process of healing for a public that had mourned her as their own. The Nardoni case is a ghost that still haunts the collective memory of a nation, its details as chilling today as they were 18 years ago. The 2023 release of the Netflix documentary A Life Too Short. The Isabella Nardoni case catapulted this local tragedy into a global conversation about justice and sensationalism. The center of this storm stood Isabella's mother, Ana Carolina Oliveira, whose presence on screen offered a masterclass in quiet fortitude. While the world dissected the evidence, it was Ana Carolina's unwavering dignity that captured hearts, proving that her daughter's memory is more powerful than the lies that tried to bury it. But justice in Brazil has a strange rhythm. Today, both Alexandre and Jatobá have benefited from semi-open prison regimes. They have been spotted on temporary furloughs, walking the streets on holidays like Mother's Day. For the public, this feels like a second betrayal. Isabella would have been a young woman today, perhaps finishing university. Instead, her name is a reminder of the fragility of innocence. She remains a symbol, not of a crime, but of a mother's love that refuses to let the world forget. What do you think? Does the legal system's focus on resocialization go too far in cases involving children? Or is the public's desire for eye-for-an-eye justice standing in the way of the law? Let's talk about it in the comments.